My name is Ivy Schamis. I spent 20 plus years of my life as a dedicated social studies educator at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. I not only worked in Parkland, but I lived in the community for 25 years, raised my family there, and my children graduated from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. As a very large suburban high school, Stoneman Douglas sits on a 45-acre campus. It has 13 separate buildings with over 3,500 students, grades 9 through 12. The 1200 building was erected in 2009, so it was the most modern with the best technology. So naturally, I asked to have a classroom there. It was room 1214 on the first floor. I taught various humanities classes over the years, and in 2014, a language arts teacher and I created a Holocaust studies program at the school for juniors and seniors. I was teaching a history of the Holocaust class, 4th period, on Wednesday, February 14th, 2018, when our lives changed forever. That day, the lesson was on the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, since the Pyeongchang Olympics were currently taking place, and we were making historic connections. The students were listening to testimonies on computers through a program from the Shoah Foundation about qualified athletes unable to compete because they were Jewish. By the end of class, we were getting ready to discuss the Jesse Owens story in order to prepare for the next lesson. I had a list of names I wanted the students to be familiar with, like Avery Brundage and Sam Stoller and Marty Glickman, and I asked the students if anyone knew Adi Dassler. Nicholas Dorrit, a typically shy young man, raised his hand and said, "I know Adi Dassler. He started the Adidas brand." He knew this because he was an athlete himself, and he recently secured a swimming scholarship to the University of Indianapolis. Adi Dassler, a German shoemaker, made Jesse Owens shoes when his were lost in transit. I started to say, "And Rudy Dassler," but Nicholas stopped me and said, "That's Adi Dassler's brother. He created the Puma brand." At that very moment, 20 minutes prior to the end of school, deafening shots rang out just outside the classroom. For 1 second, the students looked at me and went flying out of their seats, trying to hide around the perimeter of the classroom. A classroom that was way too small for 35 desks, a computer cart, a Recordex board, a teacher desk, file cabinets, and more. There was a wall of windows, no walk-in closet, and a door that not only locked from the outside, but had a long window running through the middle that was not bulletproof. Why would it be? It's a classroom door. The loud noise we heard was unmistakable. It was from an automatic weapon, even though we might not have heard that sound in person before. And prior to that day, we had zero preparation for what was about to happen. No active shooter drills, no stop the bleed kits, and nowhere to hide. I hesitated to see that all the students were crouched down when Kelly, a senior, called me to come to her. Seconds later, the glass in the classroom door was flying everywhere, and the shooter ambushed room 1214, shooting randomly for what felt like forever. It was a frightening scene, and I kept thinking, I'm the adult in the classroom. Although I locked the door and it was easy to access with the glass shut out, I was planning to stand up and try to reason with the shooter. But he continued on across the hall. The students I could see were shaking and in shock, and Sid, a junior, lowly whispered to me, "Mrs. Schamis, are we going to die today?" We remained still and quiet, even though we had 4 students injured and 2 precious students laid dead, blown away by an AR-15 owned by a former Marjorie Stoneman Douglas student with a host of mental health issues. Athletic Nicholas Dworit, the swimmer, and altruistic Helena Ramsey, who in the beginning of the year was the only student who stated her belief that hate can one day be eradicated. They were brutally murdered in their classroom, where we discussed daily how to combat hate. They would graduate high school or college or have careers or families because they came to school that day. We had one resource officer. We had one school resource officer at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, but he was too afraid to enter the 1200 building. He stayed at bay for 45 minutes while 14 students and 3 staff members were slaughtered. Coach Aaron Feist and Coach Chris Hickson entered the building when they heard the shots, and they were both killed. When the smoke alarm went off, the students on the 3rd floor started to evacuate, not realizing a shooter was in the building. When they tried to run back into their classes, a first-year teacher in my department, Scott Beagle, held the door open a bit too long, and he too was murdered in the doorway trying to help. This did not have to happen. We were not prepared. We had no training and nothing to protect ourselves, like a bulletproof shield that I now have under my desk at my current job in Washington, D.C. The Hardwire Emergency Response Shield, ERS, has made a significant difference in how secure I feel at work. Knowing that I have a reliable form of protection immediately available in the event of an emergency provides a sense of control and safety that was previously absent. Tools like the ERS can truly make a difference in such critical situations, especially if placed around the school and in classrooms, offering not only physical protection, but also peace of mind. Others can learn from my experience. Having the right tools and training in place can be life-saving. In those terrifying moments, preparation can turn panic into action and give individuals the chance to protect themselves and others. The ERS is a reminder that while we hope for the best, we must prepare for the worst. Equipping classrooms and workplaces with such protective measures, along with proper training, can transform how people respond to crises. By sharing my story, I hope to encourage others to take proactive steps in ensuring their own safety and that of those around them. Since that day, we have been part of a club that no one wants to join, and we have connected with survivors of many mass shootings. I keep in touch with Mick North from Dunblane, Scotland. His daughter Sophie is the same age as my son, but she was tragically murdered along with her classmates and teacher in 1996 when she was in the 1st grade. We will never forget meeting Austin Eubanks, an injured survivor of Columbine who gave us words of encouragement right after our tragedy. But shortly after that, he took his own life almost 20 years after his tragedy. The angels from Parkland will live forever in our hearts, and those that survived will keep their memory etched on our minds and on our skin. The student movement that began in Parkland screamed, "Never again," but it happens again and again. When and how will those lessons be learned? We can try to prevent these tragedies from occurring, but we can be ready just in case.